Welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new here. Thank you so much for joining me. Dandruff is one of those awful things that people just don't like to talk about because it's sort of, I don't know, it's just an irritant, isn't it? Literally and figuratively. I started getting dandruff when I was about 11 or 12. And I remember mentioning it to my mum. I was really anguished because it was so obvious. I had really dark hair. Okay, this is dyed, but my hair was really dark brown. You could see it on my scalp. It was also very itchy. But the really awful thing was it would drop down onto my eyebrows, onto my eyelashes, and of course onto my shoulders as well. And it made me feel so self-conscious. So the first thing she did was buy me some Vosine shampoo, which was around at the time, I don't know whether it still is, which was called a medicated shampoo, which was supposed to help dandruff. I'm afraid I don't think it did anything very much at all. So later on, I think maybe she consulted the GP, I'm not sure, and he suggested something called Selsun, which you did have to ask for behind the counter. It wasn't sort of available on the shelves, and it was a kind of gloopy, orangey stuff. Anyway, it may have done the job a bit, but it never really got rid of it. It's something that I've had to live with for a very long time, or had to live with for a very long time. Fast forward to 1982. So I'm in a band, so I'm singing and I'm doing some temp work. And I buy the Stage magazine, and in the Stage, this was for performers of all different kinds. There was an advert for looking for actors to join this program of going to have your hair shampooed. Well, I mean, it was obviously Head and Shoulders, but they didn't say so in the paper. And you went to this hairdresser's every 4 weeks, I think, or maybe every couple of weeks. I had to drive all the way to Essex, which wasn't terribly handy for me as I lived in Ealing, which is in West London. But anyway, I was really keen to do it because I thought, well, you know, you never know, I might get on camera and get some more work out of it. Anyway, they shampooed half my head. They literally do that. How they actually do that is a bit weird. I mean, you know, there must be some cross-fertilisation, but anyway, that's what they did. They shampooed half my head in Head and Shoulders, the other half in something else. And then the idea was they'd see whether anything had happened. They used to do this advert where they'd sort of part your hair and you could see flakes on one side and no flakes on the other. Anyway, sad to say, I didn't actually get through to the final thing and was never filmed properly and all of that. So, but I did use Head and Shoulders, and you know, occasionally it probably did the trick, but didn't really get rid of it. So on and off, I would still get the condition. Sometimes it was bad, other times it was okay. And then about 4 or 5 years ago, I went to a dermatologist, nothing to do with dry skin or dandruff or anything like that, but I had some lesions. I had some sort of brown things that I wanted to remove, like moles and stuff. And while I was there, I said, look, you know, I've got quite dry skin, because I was getting dry skin around my eyes, which I just attributed to having dry skin. I didn't really think anything of it, but he said, oh no, I think that's seborrheic dermatitis. That sounds delightful as well, doesn't it? It's almost as bad as saying dandruff. Anyway, he said, look, you must go and get tested to find out if you're allergic to something. And I mean, I knew I was allergic to cats, I knew I was allergic to dust mite, and I think I'd heard I was possibly slightly allergic to horses, although that never really affected me because I used to go riding. Anyway, I finally got around to going to be tested. It took ages, and it was only when this dermatitis got so bad that my hands were red raw and I had to wear gloves with like cream underneath. So I went to be tested, and it turned out that I was allergic to two things. Peruvian balsam, which apparently is found in loads of products, but it's not usually labelled. But the most important thing, I think, was citral. And citral is a kind of a derivative of citrusy fruits, as the name would suggest, or citrus. And it's got other names that it goes under, or derivatives of it, like geraniol and linalool. And anyway, the problem with citral is it's found in virtually every fragrance you can think of, certainly lots of fragrances, the ones that actually give you the list, because I was so sad when I heard that it was in fragrances, because I used to love Tom Ford. I used to wear a lot of Tom Ford, particularly Velvet Rouge, Jasmine Rouge. Oh my gosh, I loved it so much. And I went to the counter in Selfridges and said to the sales assistants, do you know if any of, particularly a jasmine root has it got citral in it, and they were very sweet, and they went to have a look. They came back and said, yes, I'm afraid it does. So I can't wear that. In fact, the upshot is I can't actually wear any fragrance on my skin at all, which is heartbreaking because I absolutely love it. Anyway, not the end of the world, but really sad, so I have to spray my clothes with it. And the other thing was I had to eliminate then all products that I put on my skin that had any fragrance at all. And sometimes the only way that you tell that a product has fragrance in it is if it says parfum, which is French for perfume, on the label, because sometimes they use that as a generic term and then you don't know what actually is in that, and that's what the skin specialist at the hospital said to me. Anyway, this is a very long-winded way of telling you that I did two things. So the dermatologist said, when I went back to him, he said, okay, eliminate all scented products from your skin. So, well, apart from hand wash and cleansers, because they only stay on the skin for a very short amount of time. To be honest, even shampoo probably isn't the end of the world. Anyway, so eliminate those. And the other thing he said was use a shampoo called NIZORAL, N-I-Z-O-R-A-L, and I'll link it down below for you. But the key thing in this, the key ingredient in this NIZORAL is something called, right, let me just check, because I'm going to put my glasses on because it's quite a long word, and it's called ketoconazole. Ketoconazole is the ingredient, and that is the active ingredient in NIZORAL shampoo. So what he said is you have to shampoo your hair twice a week with this NIZORAL, and again, it's one of those shampoos you have to ask for. It's not on the shelves, it's behind the counter at the chemist, and see how you go. And then if it starts to get better and stops, then you can kind of decrease your usage and maybe use it once a month or something like that. So I tried both those things. It was heartbreaking, as I say, having to give up wearing scent on my skin. I mean, the other thing is it did clear up all this dryness around here, which has never come back. Or if it does come back, it's because I've used something and I haven't checked it properly. I started doing that, and I gave up all the fragrances in my skincare, of which there are quite a lot. It's really surprising when you start to look at some of the products that have fragrance of some kind in them. Why does skincare have fragrance? It doesn't need it. It's so crazy. Anyway, it cleared up, and I tell you what, it has not come back. I've not had it probably now for about a year, and that's because I am being super careful about what I put on my skin in terms of skincare. I'm really careful. In fact, I've done a video on skincare. I'll link it down below for you. I keep my skincare really simple, and I always check every ingredient. So, now what I forgot to mention was, what is seborrheic dermatitis? Well, it is some kind of allergy, or it's a fungal infection. It's either or, and there is some research on it, but actually when you look it up, there's not a massive amount of research. But apparently about half the population suffer from dandruff, so it is an amazingly common problem. Now, in terms of using proprietary products like shampoos, for example, to get rid of it, what's really interesting, when I looked at other products like Head & Shoulders, like T-Gel by Neutrogena, they actually have parfum in them. They have fragrance in them. Now, why would they do that? I suppose there must be some people who do benefit from using Head & Shoulders, otherwise it wouldn't be as popular as it is. Possibly. I mean, I know Claudia Winkleman advertises it and she obviously swears by it. But if it's got fragrance in it, it'd certainly be no good for me. I mean, I know it might be well down the bottom of the ingredients list, but nevertheless, it's got perfume in it. If I were you, and you don't have to use it, don't use it. I would definitely use something with ketoconazole in it. And actually, the only product I know in this country that has ketoconazole is NIZORAL shampoo. Now, I have to say about NIZORAL, it is a little bit like using, and those of you who've had kids or had knits will know that if you have knits, you have to use a really heavy duty product, and there are some similarities with NIZORAL. It's not the kindest to your hair, so you'll find, or you'll want to, I suspect, use a conditioner after you've put it on, because it can make your hair feel a bit dry. But if you put conditioner on, you wouldn't know you'd used it. It's absolutely fine. And like I say, the good thing is if you start using it, say twice a week, after a few weeks, your dandruff should have gone, and then you can just use it every 6 weeks or so. I mean, I do use it occasionally, but not very much anymore at the moment, because all is good. I've got no dandruff. When I shake my head, I'm happy to say I don't suddenly find I've got flakes everywhere. So that is the key thing, is to keep an eye on it, and if it comes back, go back to the shampoo. I really hope this video has been useful for you in learning how to combat dandruff, that it can affect us at any age at all, whether we're teenagers or whether we're 60 plus. And if you have enjoyed the video, please consider giving it a thumbs up, and better yet, subscribing to the channel. Leave me a comment below. Let me know if you've tried any products that have worked for you. I only found NIZORAL. I didn't find anything else that had ketoconazole in it in the UK. So let me know. I'd be really interested. And thanks again so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.